We have arrived at a time of transition, the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. This is why 3 times we have the exhortation to be bold and strong, for the Lord your God is with you and will not forsake you. The Israelites must face the future without Moses, and everyone is concerned, most of all God, for he knows exactly what will happen. Provisions must be made, leadership must be transferred, everything must be sorted out for the next phase. The whole of Deuteronomy has been an exercise in just that. Moses' sermon on the law is preparation for their life in the land, that is, their long life in the land, which entirely depends on their relationship to God. But his sermon is complete, and God gives Moses a few tasks before his time is up. He does not fight now the personal disappointment that he will not cross into the promised land. Moses focuses on what is his still yet to do. His tasks are 4. 1. Write down everything in this law and give it to the Levites to deposit beside the ark. 2. Bring Joshua to the tent of meeting to transfer leadership to him. 3. Compose and sing a song of witness to the Israelites. And 4. Ascend Mount Nebo and die. Deuteronomy itself is written, probably the central section of chapters 12 to 26, and given to those Levites who have charge of carrying the ark. The ark contains the 2 tablets with the 10 commandments written on them. This law will stay beside the ark. It is a witness against them because of their rebellious nature, as Moses tells the Levites in verse 26. But it is also the source of instruction, for now that Moses, their lawgiver, will depart, it is they, the Levites, who are entrusted with the instruction of the future generations in the way of the Lord. The task is extremely weighty, because if the people are not sufficiently educated, they will stray, and if they stray, they will suffer the consequences. As the Lord says in Hosea 4, verse 6, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." As we have seen, it is the responsibility of all Israelites to teach their children and to answer their questions on a daily basis and in any situation. But this law is also to be read publicly every 7 years at the great festival, the final of the big 3, tabernacles or booths. The timing and occasion underline the lasting significance of this instruction. The song which Moses composes and sings to the people is also a witness against them. This means that the song is not a warning or an exhortation, but a sort of divine "I told you so." It serves to justify God and condemn the Israelites. God knows, as he reveals in verse 17, that when the Israelites are punished for their sins, they will blame their troubles on God's absence, that is, his lack of faithfulness. But this song is to be a lasting reminder that God is always faithful and just, and the wretched condition they find themselves in is because they sought after other gods. Because this song is a witness to the justice of God and the wickedness of Israel, Moses begins the song by calling for witnesses. He invokes all of creation, heaven and earth, to bear witness. You can see another example of this at the beginning of Isaiah, and in Micah 6, the mountains are called as witnesses against Israel. In verse 3, Moses proclaims the name of the Lord, which reminds us of when the Lord passed before him as he was hidden in the rock and proclaimed his own name. It means to expound his character, his faithfulness and mercy, holiness and justice. This is what Moses does here. In verse 4, he calls God the rock, describes his work as perfect and all his ways just. He is faithful and without deceit. His children are a sad contrast. They are degenerate. They deal falsely with the one who is without deceit, and they are a perverse and crooked generation. That Moses has called them children is now recalled with the question, "Is he not your father who created you?" This is heartbreaking stuff, the kind of relational impact that Jesus' parable about the prodigal son might have. Moses emphasizes the choice God has made of Israel out of all the nations. Verse 8 has the curious statement that God fixed the boundaries of human peoples according to the sons of God. Translations vary at this point and will read according to the sons of Israel or according to the gods. It is likely that Moses is referring to angels in the divine court who oversaw each nation. Therefore, humans are divided up between them. This role is seen in chapters 10 and 12 of Daniel. For once, the Exodus itself is bypassed in the retelling of God's faithfulness to Israel. The focus is instead on the wilderness provision. Wonderful imagery is used here to great effect, such as the apple of his eye, and the idea of God who was, a moment ago, the rock, is now a great eagle carrying its young to the safety and grandeur of the heights of the land, nurturing and feeding them. Moses returns to the rock imagery in verse 15 when he describes the rejection of God. Jeshurun is a rare name for the people of Israel. Verse 18 is a good example of the fluidity of the imagery often used to describe God. Earlier, he was the rock that was also the father to Israel. Then he was an eagle, and now he is the rock who is the mother to Israel, who gave birth to them. Israel's idolatries lead to terrible punishment. Now the Lord is described as jealous, which changes the imagery from parental to marital. Verses 26 to 27 reveal that God considered completing the destruction of his people, but was concerned in case the nations misunderstood what had happened and credited themselves for their victory, not realizing it was the Lord displaying his holy justice. Verse 28 to 33 verses switch back to Moses' perspective as he piles on scorn for these actions, for these nations. They are fools. They have no understanding of what they are involved in. These nations receive this invective because they destroy God's people, but also because whatever was appealing about them to the people of God, who followed them into idolatry only to be nearly annihilated by them, what appeared to be wisdom and knowledge was nothing but the products of Sodom and Gomorrah. Israel had all along wisdom and knowledge and truth. These nations were rotten at the root, with nothing but venom. God speaks now again, "Vengeance is mine. Their day will come." Back to Moses again in verse 36. Once Israel is sufficiently diminished, God mocks their foolishness before he vindicates his own faithfulness by rescuing them and punishing the nations. You sought comfort in their gods. Where are they now? Verse 39 delivers the great declaration, "See now that I, even I, am he. There is no God beside me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal, and no one can deliver from my hand." The song ends on the theme of God's vengeance on those who hate him, who hurt his people, and who defile the land. It is this action which, once again, will prove that God is alone and unique, that he protects his people, and that justice will not be forgotten. Moses sings this song to all of Israel, and then God calls him up the mountain for the last time.